There is a low wooden gate at the far end of a walled herb garden, and on nights like this one, when the candlelit paths have begun to glow, and the sky has gone quiet and half lit by a thinning moon, the gate opens without a sound. You would not find this garden during the day. The wall looks like any old garden wall, dry stone, moss in the joints. A climbing rose gone dormant for the season. But after sundown, when the last of the evening has moved on, the gate loosens. And if your hands are tired enough, and your mind has done enough for one day, you will feel the latch give under your fingers. I am the night keeper. Tonight the key fits a lock on an herb garden that has been waiting for you. The brass key hangs from a worn leather cord around my neck. It is warm from resting against my chest. I lift it, now, and turn it in the old iron lock beside the gate. The mechanism is slow, unhurried, a click that sounds more like a settling than an opening. The gate swings inward on its own, just enough to let you through. Beyond it, the air changes. The stone path ahead is narrow, made of flat river stones fitted close together, and on either side, low beds of herbs press against the edges. You can smell them already. Lavender first, dry and faintly sweet, the way it smells when you brush past it with your sleeve. Then rosemary, sharper, almost resinous, rising from somewhere near the wall. The scent does not rush. It arrives the way warmth does when you step in from the cold, slowly, settling around you before you have time to name it. The garden is lit by candle jars, not many, a dozen, perhaps, spaced along the path at odd intervals, each one set inside a thick glass holder the color of old honey. The flames are small and steady, barely taller than your thumb, and they throw circles of amber light onto the stones. The circles overlap in places, making soft pools where the light is a little warmer. Where the circles do not reach, the darkness is gentle, not empty, just quiet. The moon is half tonight. It sits low in the sky, just visible above the garden wall, and its light comes down at an angle through the branches of a pear tree that grows in the corner nearest the gate. The branches are bare this time of year, but the moonlight catches the bark and turns it the color of old paper. Stand here for a moment. Just stand. The gate behind you has already settled into its frame. There is no need to close it. The garden will keep the night out on its own, and the path ahead is patient. It will be here when you are ready. The first section of the path is bordered by lavender, not the wild kind that grows in scattered bundles across hillsides, but cultivated lavender, dense, orderly rows planted close together so the plants form a low hedge about knee-high. The stems are grey-green and slightly woody at the base, and even now, well past the flowering season, the leaves hold their scent. Each time your foot brushes the edge of the bed, a small breath of fragrance rises. Above the lavender, hung from a wooden beam that stretches between two stone posts, a row of glass lanterns catches the candlelight. There are 6 of them. Each one holds a candle of a slightly different color. One is the pale yellow of beeswax. One is almost white. One has the faintest tint of green. One burns with an orange that reminds you of marmalade. And 2 are the simple warm gold of old tallow. The lanterns are not perfectly still. The night air moves just enough to make the flames lean, one way, and then another, and the glass throws slow-moving shadows across the lavender below. the shadows look like water, dark, rippling patches that slide across the leaves and then ease back. Your footsteps on the path are soft. The river stones are worn smooth from years of rain and walking, and they do not clatter or scrape. Each step makes a muted sound, more felt than heard, like a hand pressing into a folded blanket. There is no urgency here. The path curves gently to the left, and as you follow it, the lavender gives way to thyme. The thyme is lower, almost ground-hugging, and it grows in tight clusters between the stones of the path itself, so that you are walking partly on stone and partly on living green. The smell changes. The smell. Thyme has a warmer scent than lavender, less floral, more like something that has been sitting in the sun, even though the sun has been gone for hours. The soil still holds the day's warmth. You can feel it, rising faintly through the soles of your shoes. A gentle heat from the hours of sunlight, the garden soaked up, and is now releasing into the cool evening. Somewhere behind the wall, a cricket begins its measured song. Not loud, not insistent, just one cricket, threading a single bright line of sound through the quiet. Then another joins, slightly lower in pitch, and the two of them settle into an unhurried rhythm that belongs entirely to the night. Near the place where the path first curves, a brass wind chime hangs from an iron hook driven into the wall. It is an old chime, made of 5 thin brass tubes of different lengths, each one dulled by seasons of weather, until it looks more like wood than metal. A small wooden bead hangs from the center on a cotton thread, and when the air moves, the bead drifts and taps one of the tubes. The sound it makes is not a chime in the usual sense. It is too soft for that. It is more like the memory of a bell. A single note that appears, holds for a moment, and then dissolves into the garden air. You stand near it and wait. The air shifts. The bead touches a tube, and the note comes. It is the kind of sound that does not ask for your attention. It simply arrives, like a drop of water finding its way down a window. And then it is gone, and the garden is quiet again. And the quiet feels a little deeper than before. The chime is not here to entertain. It is here, the way a clock is in a room where no one is watching the time, present, unhurried, marking a rhythm that no one needs to follow. Further along the path, a row of terracotta pots lines the base of the wall. Large pots, the color of fired earth, and in each one, a different herb has been planted. You recognize some by shape, even in the low candlelight. The tall, spiky silhouette of rosemary, the soft, rounded mound of chamomile, its small, daisy-like flowers closed for the night, the fine, feathery leaves of dill that sway at the smallest touch of air. A cat is sitting on the wall above the pots, just sitting the way cats do, still, watchful, entirely at ease. Its fur is dark, maybe grey, maybe a deep brown, and in the candlelight, its eyes catch 2 small points of gold. It watches you pass without moving. It has been here longer than you have, and it will be here after you leave. There is a comfort in that. The garden does not need you to stay. It does not need you to go. It simply holds the space open, the way a warm room holds its heat long after the fire has settled. You move on. The path widens slightly. As it approaches a small greenhouse, its panes fogged with condensation, so the inside is no more than shapes and shadows. Through the glass, you can make out the tall silhouette of a tomato plant that has not yet been told. The season is over, and beside it, the dark outline of a bench where someone, the gardener perhaps, sits during the day to sort seeds. The greenhouse door is a simple wooden frame with glass panes set into it, and the handle is a round brass knob, smooth from years of use. When you turn it, the door opens inward with a gentle resistance, the kind that tells you the wood has swollen just slightly in the evening moisture. Inside, the air is different, warmer, heavier. It smells of damp soil and green things growing. The rich, dark scent of earth that has been turned recently, mixed with the lighter smell of leaves buzz breathing into the humid air. A single candle sits on a clay shelf near the door, and its light reaches just far enough to show you the outlines of the greenhouse around you. There are benches on either side, made of old wood, stained by years of water and soil contact. On the benches, seed trays are lined up in neat rows, some empty, some showing the first green threads of new growth. Tiny seedlings, no taller than a fingertip, reaching toward the candlelight with the quiet confidence of things that know exactly what they are doing. There is a watering can on the floor beside the nearest bench. It is brass, with a long spout that curves gently downward, and the outside is beaded with water droplets that catch the candlelight like tiny amber jewels. Someone watered these seedlings recently. The soil in the trays is dark and damp, and if you look closely, you can see the impression of water channels where the can poured, each one a small river that found its own path through the soil. On the bench, beside the seed trays, there is a wooden box. Not a fancy box, just a simple thing, the size of a shoebox, made of pine with a hinged lid. Inside, if you lift the lid, you find compartments. Small ones, each one labeled by hand in pencil on a small strip of paper. Sage, oregano, marjoram, dill, parsley, basil, chervil, tarragon. The handwriting is careful, but not precious. The letters lean slightly to the right, the way a gardener writes when they are sitting on a bench with the box on their knee. The seeds inside each compartment are small. Each shapes are small. Some round, some elongated, some flat, some barely larger than a grain of sand. They hold so much inside them. Everything the garden will become next season is in this box, folded into these small dark shapes, waiting. You do not need to do anything with them. They are not your responsibility. They belong to the garden, and the garden knows what to do with them when the time comes. The greenhouse holds you for a while. The warmth, the green smell, the slow drip of condensation sliding down the inside of the glass panes. Outside, through the fogged glass, the candlelit garden waits, patient and unhurried. The brass key rests against my chest inside my jacket. I can feel it there, warm and solid, a small weight that means the garden is open and the night is yours. Back on the path, the garden opens into a wider section. The stone walkway here is made of larger slabs, fitted together with moss growing in the gaps. The moss is soft underfoot, not slippery, just yielding, the way a thick carpet yields. On either side, chamomile has been planted in wide drifts, and even though the small white flowers have closed for the night, the scent is still there, apple sweet and faintly honeyed, rising from the leaves, like something remembered rather than something present. The candle jars in this section are different. These are not glass holders, but small terracotta pots with candles set inside, and the clay walls of the pots glow faintly, where the flame warms them. The light here is softer, more diffuse, as if the terracotta has soaked up some of the warmth and is breathing it back out. A cracked terracotta saucer sits on a low stone pedestal near the center of the walkway. On it, a small pile of dried chamomile flowers has been left, not scattered, but placed, as if someone set them there to dry in the candlelight, and forgot to come back for them. The flowers are the color of old parchment, their petals curled inward, their centers dark. They look like tiny sleeping faces. You pass them by. The path continues, and the chamomile beds give way to sage. The sage leaves are broad and velvety, their surface covered in a fine down that makes them look almost silver in the moonlight. During the day, these leaves would be green with grey undertones, but at night, under the half moon and the distant candlelight, they are the color of pewter. The air here carries sage's particular scent. Clean, slightly medicinal, the kind of smell that makes a room feel tidier than it is. A moth appears near one of the candle jars. It does not circle the flame the way moths are said to do. It simply lands on the rim of the terracotta pot and folds its wings. Pale wings, patterned with fine lines like the veins of a leaf, and sits there, warming itself. The flame is close enough to light the moth's wings from behind, and for a moment, they become translucent, like stained glass in a very small church. Then the moth lifts off, unhurried, and drifts toward the next candle, and the garden continues its slow, quiet work of holding the night together. The path brings you to a corner of the garden where someone has been working. Not recently. The tools are put away, the soil has settled, but the evidence is here, gentle and unremarkable. A leather gardening apron is draped over the back of a cast iron chair. The leather is thick, the color of dark honey, worn soft by years of use. There are soil stains on the front, faint traces of green where leaves have brushed against it, and the ghost of a scent, lemon balm, maybe, or citronella, that clings to the fibers. The chair itself is old, painted black at some point long ago, and the paint has worn away at the arms and the edges of the seat, revealing the iron underneath, which has rusted to a color like dried blood. But it is a comfortable chair, the kind that accepts you without complaint, and the apron across it looks like an invitation. Beside the chair, a low iron table holds a ceramic teapot, a squat, round pot glazed in a deep green that is almost black, and from its spout the thinnest thread of steam rises. Someone made tea before they left. Chamomile, most likely, given the garden. The pot is still warm to the touch, and when you lift the lid, the scent that rises is chamomile and something else, honey, perhaps, or the faintest trace of lemon. There is a single cup beside the pot, already poured, the tea a pale gold in the candlelight. You do not have to drink it. It is there the way the garden is there, offered, not required. But if you were to sit in the chair, with the apron behind, and you and the tea in your hands, the garden would not mind. It would continue around you the way a river continues around a stone. On the ground near the chair, a small hand mirror leans against a pot of rosemary. Its surface is fogged with dew, so It reflects nothing but a soft blur of candlelight and green. It is not here to show you anything. It is here because someone set it down and walked away the way people set things down in places they trust. The rosemary beside it grows tall and strong, its narrow leaves dark and waxy, and its scent rises in the quiet air, sharp, clean, the smell of focus and memory and something older than both. You could stay here. The chair is waiting, the tea is warm. The garden will hold this corner for you as long as you need it. The dew is beginning. You can see it on the mint first, because the mint grows close to the path, and its leaves are broad enough to hold the moisture. So tonight, small beads of water have gathered along the edges of the leaves, and in the candlelight, each bead is a tiny lens, holding its own small image of the flame. Some of the beads have grown heavy enough to slide, and they leave faint tracks on the leaf as they move, as they move. Silver trails that catch the light and then disappear as the water pools in the curve where the leaf meets the stem. The mint scent is cool. It does not rise the way lavender does, warm and upward, but spreads sideways, low to the ground, so that you catch it when you lean down, when your face is closer to the leaves. It is the smell of water and green and something clean that does not have a name. Near the mint bed, a garden pencil lies on a flat stone. A thick pencil, the kind sold at garden centers, with a wide barrel that fits comfortably in a gloved hand. The tip is worn to a soft angle, and beside it, a plant label, a small strip of wood pointed at one end, has been freshly written. The word on it is thyme, just thyme. No variety name, no planting date, no instructions. The handwriting is the same as the one in the seed box, careful, leaning slightly, the letters of someone who writes standing up. You can imagine the gardener here earlier, pencil in hand, bending to push the label into soil beside the thyme bed, scratching the word with unhurried strokes. Not because the thyme needed labeling. Anyone could see it was thyme, but because the act of writing the name is part of being in the garden. A small, patient gesture that says, someone was here, someone noticed, someone cared enough to name what was already known. The half moon has risen a little higher. Its light now reaches deeper into the garden, touching the tops of the taller herbs and turning them to pale silver. But the candlelight still owns the lower levels, the paths and the beds and the stones, and the two lights, moon and candle, create a gentle boundary between the upper air and the earth. Above, the world is silver and open. Below, it is amber and close. You are standing in the amber part, where things are warm and near and unhurried, and the silver part is above you, doing what it does without asking anything of you. The path ends at a stone bench. Not abruptly, the stones simply widen, and the bench is there, set against the wall, facing back toward the garden. It is a thick bench, carved from a single piece of limestone that has been worn smooth by years of sitting. The surface is cool when you first touch it yet, but underneath that coolness, there is the faintest warmth left over from the day. The stone remembering the sun, the way stones do, slowly and without complaint. On the bench, a wool blanket has been folded. Not tossed, not crumpled, folded. The way someone folds a blanket they expect to use again. It is thick, the color of oatmeal, with a fringe along the edges that has been knotted by hand. The wool is soft. Not the scratchy kind that catches on skin, but the worn kind that has been washed enough times to lose its stiffness. When you lift it, it smells of lavender and cedar and something else. The faintest trace of wood smoke, as if it has been kept near a fireplace at some point in its life. You wrap it around your shoulders. The weight of it is just right, enough to feel held, not enough to feel burdened. The blanket settles around you like a second stillness, and the gardens, which was already quiet, becomes quieter still, as if the blanket has drawn a line around you and said, "This far, no further." Behind the bench, the greenhouse glows faintly through its fogged panes. In front of you, the garden stretches back the way you came. The chamomile beds, the sage, the lavender rose, the glass lanterns on their wooden beam, the terracotta pots with their small flames. Everything is visible from here, but distant, softened by the candlelight and the night air. You do not need to walk back. You do not need to do anything at all. The bench holds you. The blanket holds you. The garden holds all of it. The paths, the herbs, the candles, the chime that sounds its single note now and then, the cat on the wall, the moth near the flame, the dew forming on the mint. None of it needs your attention. It is all here, doing what it does, and you are here, doing what you do, which right now is nothing more than sitting, wrapped in wool, in a place that was made for exactly this. The cat finds you. It does not come directly. Cats never do, but appears at the edge of the bench as if it has been there all along, and you are only now noticing it. The same cat from the wall. It is the same cat from the wall, the dark one with the gold eyes, and it sits at the far end of the bench, just close enough to be present, just far enough to be independent. It tucks its front paws underneath its chest and settles into that posture cats do so well. The one that says, "I am not staying, I am not leaving, I am simply here." Its breathing is slow. You can see the slight rise and fall of its side, the fur moving in a rhythm that has nothing to do with clocks or schedules. The cat is not sleeping. It is resting, which is a different thing. Pause, aware but not alert, present, without any obligation to respond. You and the cat sit together for a while. Neither of you needs the other to be anything other than what it is. The blanket keeps you warm. The bench keeps you steady. The candles burn at their own pace, some taller now than when you arrived, some shorter, all of them steady. The wind chime sounds its note again. The same single tone, the same slow dissolving. The cat's ear turns toward it. Just the ear, not the head, and then turns back. The garden records these small events without comment. A night-blooming jasmine, planted near the greenhouse, has begun to release its scent. You do not notice it all at once. It arrives gradually, threading itself between the lavender and the chamomile and the rosemary, adding a sweetness that is slightly different, more floral, more open, like a window opening in a room that was already pleasant. The jasmine does not bloom during the day. It waits for the night, for the quiet hours, when the air is cool enough to carry its fragrance without breaking it apart. It is a patient plant, content to bloom when no one is watching. The brass key shifts against my chest. Not much, just the faintest adjustment, settling more comfortably against the leather cord. I have been standing near the greenhouse, watching the garden hold its night. and the key is a quiet reminder that this place is open because someone turned it. Not because the lock was difficult. It was not. But because the turning matters. The small, deliberate act of choosing to open something, rather than walking past it. The seed box in the greenhouse is still there, behind the fogged glass. I can see its shape through the panes. The rectangular outline of the pine box, the hinged lid slightly raised, the compartments inside me holding their small dark secrets. When the soil warms and the light returns, the gardener will come back to that box. They will open it, read the labels, and begin. One seed at a time pressed into the earth, covered gently, watered from the brass can with the long spout. And the garden will grow again, filling these beds with new leaves and new scents, and the cycle will go on as it always has. Unhurried, unforced, following a rhythm that has nothing to do with wanting or urgency. The garden does not rush. It does not compare itself to other gardens. It takes what is soil, this water, this moon, this candle, and it grows. Not because it should. Not because someone is watching, but because growing is what seeds do when the conditions are gentle enough to allow it. You are part of the conditions tonight, your stillness, your breathing, the weight of the blanket on your shoulders. These are not things you are doing for the garden. They are things the garden is receiving from you. The way it receives dew and moonlight and the warmth of the soil, without asking, just accepting. There is a quiet pleasure in knowing the names of things. Not because naming makes them useful, but because naming is a way of paying attention. Saying, I see you, I know what you are, and that is enough. The garden is full of things worth naming. Lavender grows along the first path and releases its scent when you brush against it. Rosemary stands near the wall and smells of focus and clean kitchens. Thyme grows between the stones. Thyme grows between the stones and holds the warmth of the ground in its small leaves. Chamomile closes its flowers at night and opens them in the morning. A patient rhythm that asks nothing of anyone. Sage has broad silver leaves that feel like velvet under a fingertip. Dill has feathery fronds that move even in air that seems still. Parsley, flat-leafed and dark green, grows in a cluster near the greenhouse door. Oregano spreads low and wide, its scent earthy and warm. Marjoram looks like oregano, but smells softer, gentler, like oregano that has decided to be kind. Basil has not survived the frost, but its ghost lingers in the soil, a warm anise scent the earth remembers. Mint, already mentioned, already dew-covered, spreads wherever it finds a corner of moisture and shade. Tarragon is tall and narrow, with a scent that reminds you of vinegar and summer and quiet French kitchens. And chervil, the most delicate of them all, its leaves like lace, its flavor like anise, that has been whispered rather than spoken. Each one grows in its place. None of them competes with the others. They are not in a race. They grow the way herbs grow. Slowly, quietly, in their own time, filling the garden with a complexity that could never be planned, only allowed. You do not need to remember all the names. You do not need to remember any of them. The garden does not test you. It simply offers itself. Not for you to know every detail, but for the comfort of knowing it is all here. Beyond the garden wall, in the field or the orchard, or whatever lies on the other side of that dry stone boundary, a barn owl calls. It is not the sharp cry that owls sometimes make, the kind that cuts through a silence and makes you look up. This is the softer call, the one that sounds like a question asked to no one in particular, a low, wavering note that rises, holds, and falls, the way a breath rises, holds, and falls. The owl is far enough away that its voice arrives softened by distance, rounded at the edges, more atmosphere than sound. The cat on the bench hears it. Both ears turn now, not just one, and hold for a moment, tracking the direction of the call. Then the ears relax, and the cat's eyes close halfway again. The owl is not a threat. The owl is a neighbor, occupying its own section of the night, doing its own quiet work. The garden has neighbors. The wall does not keep the world out so much as it defines where the garden ends and the rest of the night begins. On the other side, there are fields probably, and trees, and perhaps a barn where the owl lives, and perhaps a farmhouse where someone is sleeping with the window open, hearing the same call you are hearing, receiving the same small note of the night. The cricket continues its thread of sound. Another has joined now. 3 of them, each at its own pitch, each at its own tempo, overlapping in a pattern that never repeats but always sounds the same. It is the sound of a summer evening ending, or an autumn evening beginning, that particular burr, that particular frequency of insect song that means the year is at a turning point, neither fully warm nor fully cool, the season holding its breath between one thing and the next. You pull the blanket a little closer, not from cold, the air is mild, but from the simple comfort of being held. The blanket holds you the way the garden holds the night, without effort, without question, without the need for you to explain why you are here or how long you plan to stay. The candles have changed, not gone out. They are still burning, all of them, each one in its glass holder or terracotta pot, but the light they cast has deepened. Blown sapis are lower now, steadier, as if they have settled into the night, the way you have settled into the blanket. The amber pools they throw on the stones are warmer, more golden, and the shadows between them have grown softer, less defined, the way shadows grow when the light source becomes more familiar. The garden is a different place at this hour than it was when you arrived. The same paths, the same herbs, the same stones, but the quality of the light has changed everything. Things that were sharp when you first saw them, the edge of a terracotta pot, the outline of the greenhouse, the brass tubes of the wind chime, have blurred slightly, softened by the deepening dark and the steadying flame. The half moon is higher now, past its lowest point, climbing slowly toward the top of the sky. Its light has not changed, but it reaches different places than it did earlier. The pear tree, near the gate, is no longer catching the moon on its bark. The light has moved on to the wall itself, to the tops of the lavender rose, to the glass of the greenhouse panes, which now hold a faint silver reflection of the sky. From the bench, the garden looks like a painting, not a photograph, a painting, where the edges of things are slightly uncertain, where colors are felt more than seen, where the space between objects is as important as the objects themselves, the space between the lavender and the path, the space between the candle and the stone, the space between you and the cat. These spaces are not empty. They are full of the garden's quiet, the particular quiet of a place that has done its work for the day, and is now resting, the way a kitchen rests after dinner, the way a book rests after being read, the way a chair rests after someone has stood up from it. Everything here is at peace with the hour. The night is doing what it does, and the garden is helping. The brass watering can is still where it was left, on the ground near the greenhouse door, its long spout pointing toward the thyme bed. In the candlelight, the brass has taken on the color of dark honey, and the water droplets on its surface have not dried. They are still there, each one a tiny sphere of reflected light clinging to the curved metal the way dew clings to a leaf. If you were to pick up the can, you would feel its weight. Not heavy, but present, the weight of something that has been filled and used and set down with care. The handle would be cool in your hand, and the spout would tilt easily, the balance of the can, designed for the simple act of pouring water onto growing things. There is something restful about a tool that knows its purpose. The watering can does not wonder what it is for. It does not aspire to be a vase or a kettle or a drinking vessel. It is a watering can, and its entire existence is shaped around the act of giving water to plants. The long spout reaches places a cup could not. The handle is positioned for tilting. The body is wide enough to hold enough water for a row of seedlings, but not so wide that it becomes awkward. Everything about it is considered, deliberate, and calm. You set it back down. The droplets catch the light one more time, and then the can returns to its place in the garden's quiet order. Near the watering can, a small pile of terracotta fragments sits in a shallow basket. Broken pots, saved for a purpose. Gardeners use these fragments to cover the drainage holes at the bottom of pots, so that the soil does not wash out when watered. It is a small thing, a practical thing, but it speaks to a way of being in the world that does not throw away what is broken, but finds a new use for it. The fragments are different colors, some the red of new clay, some the pale orange of old terracotta, some nearly white where the glaze has worn through. Together, they look like a collection of small, flat stones, each one smooth-edged and harmless, each one waiting to be useful again. The night has moved. Not quickly. Nights here do not move quickly, but you can feel the change. The air is cooler now, and the warmth that rose from the soil as earlier has settled back into the earth, leaving the air above the path just a degree or two closer to the temperature of the stones. The garden does not mind the coolness. Herbs are hardy things. They have survived winters and droughts and the indifference of people who forgot to water them. A little cool air at the end of a long day is nothing to a plant that has been growing in this soil for years. The candle jars have burned down further. Some of the shorter candles are now close to the bottom of their glass holders, and the flames sit low, barely taller than a grain of rice. But they still burn. They are not ready to go out. They are in the last phase of their burning. The wax is thin, the flame is quiet, and the light is more amber than gold, more warmth than illumination. From the bench, you can see the whole garden in this light. The path is a pale ribbon, winding through dark beds. The lanterns on the wooden beam still hang, their colored candles still giving their gentle tint to the air. The beeswax, yellow, the near white, the faint green, the marmalade orange. The terracotta pots along the wall are dim shapes, their candles now low pools of light. that barely reach the rim. The greenhouse is a dark rectangle with fogged glass that reflects nothing but the faintest impression of candlelight. And above it all, the half-moon has reached its highest point, and the sky around it is the deep blue-black of a night that has settled into itself. Not the black of absence, but the black of fullness. A sky so deep with stars and darkness and space that it feels like a ceiling made of something soft. You are underneath it. The blanket is around you. The bench is beneath you. The garden is around you. And the night is above, holding everything gently, the way earth holds the roots of herbs, firmly, without any need to be thanked. On the ground beside the bench, half hidden by the fringe of the wool blanket, there is a small notebook. It is bound in soft leather, the color of chestnuts, and the pages inside are thick and unlined, the kind of paper that accepts pencil and ink without bleeding. The notebook has been used. The pages are not crisp. They have the slight waviness of paper that has been turned many times, and some of them have small pressed leaves between them, dried flat and brown, their veins still visible, like the roads on an old map. The handwriting inside is the same handwriting as the seed box labels and the plant marker. The gardener's hand, steady and unhurried. The entries are not instructions. They are observations today. The rosemary flowered. 2 bees on the sage at midday. The mint has reached the edge of the path again. The chamomile smells strongest just after rain. These are not urgent notes. They are the notes of someone who watches a garden the way you watch a fire. Not to learn from it, but for the pleasure of watching. Each entry is a small act of attention, a way of saying, I was here, I noticed, I wrote it down. The notebook does not belong to you. It belongs to the garden, the way the seed box belongs to the garden, the way the watering can, and the apron, and the teapot belong to the garden. They are all parts of the same quiet practice. Some quiet practice, the practice of being in a place long enough to know it, and caring for it without urgency, and recording what happens without the need to change it. You close the notebook and set it back where it was. The leather is warm from the blanket's edge. The pressed leave inside will be there tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. The gardener will come back and add a new observation, something small, something true, something that does not need to be shared or explained or turned into a lesson. It is just a note in a book in a garden at night, and that is enough. The moth from earlier has returned, or perhaps it is a different moth. They are hard to tell apart in candlelight, and the garden has more than one. This one is larger, its wings the color of dried oatmeal. The color of dried oatmeal, with 2 small dark spots near the tips that look like the eyes of a much larger creature. It lands on the glass of one of the lanterns on the wooden beam, the one with the bees' wax yellow candle inside, and sits there, its wings spread flat against the glass, absorbing the warmth that passes through. The glass is warm. You can tell by the way the moth settles, pressing its body close, folding its legs underneath, becoming as flat and as close to the heat source as it can. The candlelight passes through the moth's wings from behind, and the veins become visible. A fine network of lines that carry the wing's structure, the way roots carry a plant's. The wings are not paper, thin the way they look from above. They are layered, textured, covered in scales, so small they look like dust. The moth sits for a long time. Minutes pass, and it does not move. It is not trapped. It is not confused. It is resting in the warmth of the candle. The same way you are resting in the warmth of the blanket, drawn to a source of comfort, settling into it, staying as long as it feels right. When it finally lifts off, it does so slowly, rising straight up from the glass, clearing the lantern, and drifting toward the jasmine near the greenhouse. Its flight is not direct. It curves and adjusts, finding the currents of warm air that rise from the candles and the soil, riding them the way a leaf rides a stream. Without effort, without direction, just carried. The garden is full of these small journeys. The cats from the wall to the bench, the moths from the lantern to the jasmine, the dews from the air to the leaf, the scents from the rosemary to the path. None of them are urgent. None of them have destinations. They are movements that happen because the garden makes them possible, and the night makes them gentle, and the hours makes them slow enough to notice. The herbs are sleeping, not the way people sleep, not with dreams and turning and shifting of weight, but in their own way, which is slower and deeper and older than any human sleep. The lavender has closed its leaf pores, the tiny openings on the underside of each leaf that breathe during the day. At night, they seal, and the plant's breathing slows to almost nothing. The rosemary has pulled its energy down from its tips, drawing it into the roots, where it will sit until morning, warm and safe in the soil. The thyme has curled its leaves slightly inward, not enough to see from the bench, but enough to hold the day's warmth a little longer. The chamomile closed its flowers at dusk. The sage has turned its leaves so the silver underside faces the sky, reflecting moonlight rather than absorbing it. A small act of conservation the plant performs every night, without thinking. These are not conscious decisions. The herbs do not decide to sleep. They simply follow the light, and when the light changes, they change with it, the way a tide follows the moon. There is a deep comfort in this, in knowing that the garden does not need you to tend it tonight, that the plants are doing what they have always done, following rhythms that were old before anyone thought to name them. The lavender will open its pores at dawn. The rosemary will send its energy back up. The chamomile will unfurl its petals to the morning sun. But that is hours away. Right now, the garden is in its night phase, its rest phases, and you are inside it, wrapped in wool, watching it sleep. The cat has not moved. It is still at the far end of the bench, a dark shape with closed eyes and slow breathing. It is sleeping too, in the cat way, present, aware, resting without surrendering. Everything is at rest, and the rest is complete. There is nothing missing. The night is doing its work, and its work is enough. The garden pencil is still on its flat stone. It has not moved. Why would it? There is no one here to pick it up, no one writing labels in the dark, no one pressing words into soft wood by candlelight. The pencil rests the way all tools rest when their work is done, in place, at ease, ready to be used again but not waiting for it. The word on the label beside it, thyme, is barely visible now in the low light. The pencil marks have not faded, but the light has withdrawn, and what was easy to read an hour ago now requires leaning closer, squinting slightly, trusting the shape of the letters more than the evidence of your eyes. This is how gardens work. They do not change quickly, but the light around them changes, and the light makes everything look different. What was clear becomes soft. What was sharp becomes gentle. What was easy becomes something that requires a little more patience, a little more willingness to sit with the not knowing. The pencil will be there in the morning. The gardener will pick it up, read the label, maybe add another word beside it, a date perhaps, or a note about the weather, or a simple observation about how the thyme has spread since last week. And then the pencil will go back to its stone, and the label will go back to the soil, and the garden will continue its slow conversation with itself. A conversation written in pencil on wood and in roots on earth. No, you do not need to be part of this conversation. You are here to listen, not to speak. The garden does not need your spooks. It has its own. The names of the herbs, the notes in the leather book, the pencil marks on the labels, the slow language of growth and rest and growth again. Listen. The chime sounds once more. The same note, the same dissolving, the same deepening of the quiet that follows. Through the greenhouse glass, the shapes inside have not changed. The tomato plant, the bench, the seed trays, watering, ask nothing. The watering can that was moved back inside earlier, they are all still there, held in the greenhouse's particular warmth, which is different from the garden's warmth. The greenhouse holds heat, the way a jar holds water, completely, without gaps, without the slow bleeding that happens in open air. The glass panes, fogged as they are, act as a barrier between the greenhouse's warmth and the garden's cool, and the condensation on the inside of the glass is the evidence of that difference, moisture that formed when the warm, humid air inside touched the cold surface of the glass and surrendered its water. If you were to open the greenhouse door now, the air that came out would be thick and green and warm, the smell of growing things in a closed space. The seedlings in their trays would be there, their tiny stems reaching toward the candlelight on the clay shelf, their roots invisible in the dark soil below. Doing the slow work of anchoring and absorbing that is the foundation of all growth. The greenhouse is a small world inside a larger world. It has its own climate, its own rules, its own pace. Inside, things grow faster than they do outside, because the warmth is steadier, and the wind is absent, and the light is concentrated by the glass. But it is still a garden pace, not a human pace. The seedlings are in no hurry. They grow because they are alive, and being alive means growing, and growing means reaching, and reaching means changing, one small cell at a time, in a direction that is always upward. You can hear the greenhouse now. Not with your ears, it makes no sound, but with something else, some awareness that picks up the presence of living things in a warm space, the way you can feel the presence of a fire in a room, even when you are not looking at it. The greenhouse is alive in a way. The rest of the garden at this hours is sleeping. It is the garden's warm heart beating slowly in the dark, holding the promise of the next season inside its fogged glass walls. The cat stretches. It is the first real movement it has made in a long time. A full stretch, front paws extending forward, back arching, tail rising and then lowering, in a slow curve. The stretch lasts only a few seconds, but it changes the quality of the air around the bench, the way a single note changes the quality of a silence. Then the cat settles again. This time it shifts its position slightly, turning so that its body faces the garden rather than the wall, its chin resting on its front paws, its eyes open just enough to watch the candlelight through half-closed lids. The cat is not looking at anything in particular. It is looking at the garden the way you look at a fire, not to see but to be in the presence of something moving and warm and alive. The candles are lower still. Some of them are close to going out. Their wax pools, thin and translucent, their flames barely there. When one finally does go out, the beeswax yellow, one in the lantern nearest the greenhouse, it does not go out with a flicker. It simply stops. The flame becomes smaller and smaller, and then it is not there. And the glass holds nothing but a thin thread of smoke that rises straight up and disappears. The garden does not notice. The other candles continue to burn. The moon continues to shine. The herbs continue to sleep. One candle more or less makes no difference to the whole. But the spot where it was is darker now, and the darkness is not empty. It is just the garden without that particular light, the way a room is a room without that particular voice. The cat watches the place where the candle was, and then its eyes close again, and the night continues. The leather apron on the cast iron chair has not moved. It is still draped the way it was when you first saw it. Casually, but tonight's in the way someone drapes an apron when they plan to come back for it. The leather has darkened in the cool air, the way leather does when the temperature drops, and the soil stains on the front are deeper now, less distinct, blending into the general dark of the material. If you were to touch it, the leather would be cool, but not cold. Leather holds warmth the way stone does, slowly releasing it over time, so that even after the sun has been gone for hours, there is still the ghost of warmth in the fibers, a memory of the gardener's body heat from earlier in the day. The apron has pockets, 2 large ones in the front, the kind that hold seed packets, and twine, and a folding knife, and whatever else a gardener carries during the day. The pockets are empty now. The gardener took their things with them when they left. But the pockets still hold their shape, still gape slightly open, still ready to be filled in anyone. Still ready to be filled again in the morning. There is something tender about an apron that has been worn by a gardener. It is not a garment that is meant to be seen. It is meant to be used, to be stained, to be splashed with water, and rubbed with soil, and pressed against the edge of a potting bench. It is the garment of someone who works with their hands, who kneels in the dirt, who reaches into thorny branches without flinching. The apron protects the gardener's clothes, but more than that, it announces the gardener's presence. When it hangs on the chair, the gardener is nearby. When it is gone, the gardener has left. Right now, it is here, which means the gardener has not gone far. Maybe inside the house, wherever it is, making another pot of tea, or reading a book by a window, or sleeping with by a window, so that the garden's night scent can find its way in. The apron will be here in the morning, the gardener will put it on, and the day will begin, and the garden will wake. The brass key is quiet against my chest. It has been there all night. Of course, it is always there. But it is only now, in this deeper hour, that I notice its weight again. Not a heavy weight. A heavy weight. A small one, the weight of a coin or a button. the kind of weight you forget about. And then remember, and the remembering brings a kind of comfort. The key opened the gate earlier tonight. It turned in the lock, and the gate swung inward, and the garden received you. That is what the key does. It opens. Not with force, not with cleverness, but with the simple patience of metal meeting metal in the right way at the right time. There is no trick to it. The key is shaped for the lock, and the lock is shaped for the key. And when they meet, the mechanism releases, and something that was closed becomes open. The key does not keep anything locked. It only opens. It has never turned anyone away. It has never refused to fit. It is the same key, on the same leather cord, and it opens the door at the library, and the gate at the garden, and the combat, and the compartment on the train, and the hatch at the observatory. Each night, a different lock. Each night, the same key. The leather cord is soft around my neck. It has been there long. It has been there long enough to take the shape of the wearer, to curve where the neck curves, to hang where gravity tells it to hang. The cord and the key together weigh almost nothing, but they carry the whole night with them. Every garden, every library, every quiet place that has been opened for someone who needed to rest. I can feel the key settling now. Not moving, exactly, but relaxing into its place. The way a stone settles into a riverbed, the way a book settles into a shelf. It is home here, against my chest, under my jacket, warm with my warmth, patient with my patience. The night is deep now. The garden is as quiet as it will get, and the key is resting. The candles are going out, not all at once. They are not synchronized, not planned, not performing. They are simply reaching the end of their wax, one by one, at their own pace, in their own time. The terracotta pot nearest the chamomile bed goes first. The flame shrinks, tilts, and stops, and the pot becomes a small dark vessel, holding nothing but a thin curl of smoke. Then the one near the sage. The same quiet ending, the same disappearing act that is not dramatic, not sad, just finished. One by one, the candles say good night. Some of them last longer than others, depending on how much wax they started with, and how sheltered they are from the air. The ones in the glass lanterns on the wooden beam last longest because the glass protects them from the breeze, and the wax in those candles was thicker to begin with. But even they are thinning now. The flames sitting low in their glass cups, the wax translucent at the edges, the light they cast more memory than illumination. The garden is not dark. The moon is still there, and the sky is deep and clear, and the stars, which have been there all along, unnoticed because the candles were brighter, are beginning to show themselves. They are not the sharp, competitive stars of a winter sky. They are the soft, warm stars of a mild night, the kind that do not demand attention, but reward it. The garden does not need the candles to be itself. The candles were a welcome, a way of saying, you are expected, you are safe, the path is lit. But the garden was here before the candles, and it will be here after them. And the moonlight is enough to show the shapes of things, the bower, wall, the beds, the path, the greenhouse, the bench. The last candle in the garden, the one in the terracotta pot nearest the bench, holds on. Its flame is tiny, barely a spark, but it burns with the same steadiness it had when it was new, the same willingness to be a flame for as long as there is wax to feed it. And then it, too, goes out, and the garden is in moonlight now, silver and blue, and very quiet. And the candle jars are empty glass and clay, and the night continues without them. Now, the garden belongs to the moon. The half-moon, which has been climbing all night, is high enough to cast its light into every corner, and the garden has changed its colors. What was amber and gold is now silver and blue. The stones of the path are pale, almost white, and the moss between them is dark green, nearly black. The lavender beds are grey, a soft, warm grey that is nothing like the grey of a city or a wall or a stone. It is the grey of something alive that is resting, the grey of a dove's wing, the grey of smoke from a wood fire. The greenhouse panes have stopped reflecting the candlelight and are now reflecting the moon, a single bright rectangle of silver set into the dark shape of the building. The cat's eyes, if they were open, would be catching this light, and the brass tubes of the wind chime would be gleaming faintly, each one a thin line of silver hanging in the air. The garden is at its quietest now. The crickets have slowed, not stopped, but spaced their chirps further apart, as if they too are settling in for the deepest part of the night. The owl has not called again. The moth has found its resting place, folded its wings, and become part of the darkness. The dew is heavy now, run every leaf and anyone, covering every leaf and petal and stone with a thin film of water that holds the moonlight and turns the garden into something that looks like it has been dusted with something precious. You are still on the bench. The blanket is still around you. The wool is warm, and the stone beneath you is steady, and the garden is silver and quiet and complete. There is nothing left to discover. There is nothing left to discover. There is nothing left to find. The garden has shown you everything it has. The lavender and the rosemary, the thyme and the chamomile, the sage and the dill, the greenhouse and the seed box, the watering can and the apron, the cat and the moth, the chime and the pencil, the teapot and the notebook. All of it is here. All of it is resting, and so are you. The garden is holding you now, not with arms or hands, but ski, the barbarous kind of holding that a place does when you have been still inside it long enough for it to know you are there. The stones know, the herbs know, the wall and the moon know. They are not watching you. They are simply including you, the way the garden includes the cat and the moth and the cricket and the owl. Quiet. As part of its night, part of its quiet. Your own breathing has slowed. Your own breathing has slowed. You may not have noticed, but it has. The rhythm that was quick when you arrived at the gate has settled into something deeper, something that matches the garden's own rhythm. Dew forming, candles burning, herbs sleeping, moonlight moving across stones. The blanket is warm. The bench is steady. The garden is quiet. And the night tea is doing what it does best, holding everything gently, asking nothing, letting the world be still for a while. There is no need to think, no need to plan, no need to remember or worry or figure anything out. The garden does not require your attention. It is complete without you, and it will be complete when you leave, and it is happy to have you here for as long as you want to stay. The wind chime does not sound. The air is still. The cat is sleeping. The candles are out. The moon is high, and the garden is in its deepest quiet. The quiet that comes at the end of the night, when everything has been said and done, and the only thing left is to be. I have been standing near the gate all night. Not watching. The garden does not need watching, but present. The way the wall is present, the way the stones are present, the way the moon is present. My job is not to tend the garden. The garden tends itself. My job is to open the gate and to close it, and to carry the key and to be here when someone needs a place to rest. The gate is still open. It will stay open until you leave, and you may leave whenever you choose. There is no rush. There is no closing time. The garden does not keep hours. But when you are ready, whenever that is, whether it is in a few minutes or a few hours, or when the first light touches the wall, the gate will be there, and the path will lead you back to it, and the key will turn in the lock, and the garden will close for the night. Not forever, just until the next night. Why? When the candles will be fresh, and the watering can will be full, and the gardener's apron will be on its chair, and the seed box will be open on the bench. The lantern stays low, the gate stays open. The key rests against my chest, warm on its leather cord. I will be here tomorrow night, and the night after that, and the night after that. The garden will be here too. The lavender will release its scent. The chime will sound its note. The cat will find its bench. The moth will find its flame. And the herbs will grow slowly, patiently, in their own time, following the old rhythms that have nothing to do with clocks or calendars, or the need to be anywhere other than exactly where they are. Sleep now. If sleep has found you, and if it has not, stay a little longer. The bench is warm, the blanket is holding. The garden is quiet, and the night is yours. Sleep well.